Hello? Oh, there we go. Always test that your mic is working before you go on to a stream. That's tip number one. That's happened to me a few times. Laptop updated to Windows 11, and obviously clearly it's mucked up with some of the settings in OBS that I use for these streams. So yeah, apologies about that. How's it going, guys? Man United fans, YouTube. I'm back at it with another stream, so let me just change the lighting on this a little bit. It's a little bit better. Yeah, back at it for another stream. So Burnley tonight in about an hour or so's time. Yeah, I'm not particularly optimistic. I was fairly optimistic with the Newcastle game, and it was probably one of the worst games I've seen us play for a long, long time. Never mind this season. Really, really poor. Didn't create many chances. Newcastle were all over us. We made players like Joe Linton look absolutely world class. St. Maximum looked like he'd just won the Ballon d'Or. Just terrible in terms of a structure defensively. Talked a bit about it last time I was on stream prior to the match about coping and being in control of games and being in control of the game, even off the ball, being in control of the game, and unfortunately just still not happening. And then going forward, the transition from defence to attack when we didn't do win the ball is non-existent. It's not there. We seemingly don't seem to have a familiar style of play. We seem to be stuck when it comes to building attacks, and the performances were just awful from the Newcastle game, which I did react about the other day. So I won't go into that too much, but that's obviously got to change tonight, and we've got to see some good performances from certain players, and hopefully we won't see certain players playing because they don't deserve to play and don't deserve to start. So that'll be interesting to see who he picks. We're about sort of 15 or so minutes away from him announcing the formation. So I'll bring up the formation I think, or he should play with. I think he will play with a combination of kind of both there, really. And then probably halfway through this stream, or 3/4 through it, we'll see. We'll see who he picks, because no doubt he'll be announcing it. I think it's at 1:15. We'll just have a quick little look if he's announced it at 7 o'clock. But I think it will be 1:15 that he'll announce the team, the formation in the team lineup. So we'll look out for that. Just double check. It's not on at the minute. Don't think it is. Or he has announced it. Okay, so that's interesting. So, right. Well, in that case, let's get this formation up and let's have a quick little look at whether it matches what I've put in, and talk a little bit about that then. So, yeah, looking at the formation, and so what he's actually gone with, I've gone with De Gea, Maguire, Varane, Dalot, Shaw, McTominay and Fred, Sancho, Bruno, Greenwood, Ronaldo. It looks like from that I'm one or two players out. Don't know what he was looking at when he started after the game with Rashford in. Don't know what the hell he was looking at from that performance, but seemingly Rashford's done nothing wrong, despite everybody in the world who's watched that game against Newcastle had seen. And looking at it, he's done enough to allow him to get another start in this team. So Rashford starts. I mean, other than the fact that he wears number 10 on the back of his shirt, I don't see how else he gets into this team. He was awful the other night, really poor. So God knows how he's managed to get another performance out of this. Matic, McTominay's been dropped finally. I think he's been absolutely diabolical. Fred's been a bit better, not much better, but he's been a bit better. But he basically gets swapped out for Matic by the looks of it. So I'm 2 or 3 players out really. Matic comes in for McTominay, but let's be honest, in terms of the formation, it's still a 4-2-2-2, which is exactly what he's playing. The weirdest formation I've ever seen. I don't know. I think he's just stuck for players playing in certain formations. He's almost trying to patch it up by playing these kinds of formations. Really, I think it's a bit diabolical what he's doing at the minute, Rangnick, and he's not really convincing many fans at this moment in time. I've still got a lot of faith in him. I think he's clearly angry and disappointed about the lack of energy and the lack of the quality in the side at the minute in terms of end product. On paper they've got a hell heap of quality, but end product it doesn't seem to be actually showing. So that's clearly a worry. So yeah, we've got back four of Dalot, Maguire, Varane, and Luke Shaw. So Luke Shaw comes in for Telles, which I think is about the right time now. I think Telles his luck has run out. Wasn't particularly fantastic the other night, and I think it's time for Luke Shaw to get back to some form. And we need him firing. We need that left hand side firing. If we can get this right hand side firing, then we might have a chance of clawing some hope that we'll get top 4 this season. But at the moment, I'm not particularly optimistic. But Shaw needs to be firing, and hopefully he gets some form tonight. Matic provide you a little bit of stability and a little bit of confidence to ask and retain the ball. Hopefully we see that a little bit of that tonight from Matic, where he's asking for the ball, he's calling for the ball, he's getting some of that possession and that ball. So yeah, hopefully we'll get a little bit of that from Matic tonight, and he starts playing some balls forward, progressive, positive forward balls. So we'll see from Matic whether we get that. That's kind of what we've been needing and been screaming out for. But it's other players showing as well. I watched a bit of the Brighton game last night against Chelsea. Every single Brighton player wanting the ball, and every single player who had the ball and was offering it to the teammate as soon as he asked for that ball, trusting his teammate. He's asking for it, I'm going to give it him, and trusting that he's going to retain it, trusting that he's going to come up with the right option, that he's going to hold the ball up, he's going to play somebody else back in, or play that person who's played that pass into his feet back in. It's trusting your teammates basically, and that's clearly what we don't do. And you'll see it again tonight several times where somebody will ask for the ball, somebody will come short asking for that ball, and then basically be told otherwise. Biggest shock I've just noticed it now. Biggest shock to this formation, no Bruno Fernandes. So once again, Rangnick dropping Bruno Fernandes. I can't say he's not deserved a drop. There's a lot of players who have deserved dropping. How Marcus Rashford has not been dropped over Bruno, I don't know. It just staggers me. It really does stagger me. So Marcus in over Bruno, which is just amazing. Yeah, just still staggered by that. I mean, personally, what I would want to be seeing, really, this is a formation I've put out. It's a formation I think he'll play, not necessarily one I think that we should be playing. But we desperately need Bruno in there with somebody else in that midfield, and just been a typical centre midfielder. I think that's kind of where Bruno needs to be at. But no Bruno, massive shock. No Bruno Fernandes. That is just amazing. Yeah, Marcus Rashford gets into that team. Some positive. Jadon Sancho didn't start the other night. I think Jadon came on the other night, didn't do particularly well, but he was trying to show himself and trying to be positive. And I think he's a player who definitely needs more minutes and definitely needs to be starting a game. He did nothing wrong prior to that game against Newcastle, and yet was on the bench. Despite his last 2 or 3 games being pretty positive, so he definitely needs to be starting. Following that, I think we've got Cavani and Ronaldo up front, which is proven that it gets goals. That partnership gets goals, and that partnership needs to continue. I think the other partnership. This formation here is just, if anybody does drop into this, I'm sure I'll be behind anyway, and I'll have to explain it. But if anybody does drop into this, is a formation I put together prior to the lineup being announced. at 7 o'clock. So, or was it 7 o'clock? I assumed it was 7 o'clock, but it might have been announced a lot sooner than that. So there's no Greenwood, Bruno, McTominay in this lineup. Instead, it is Matic, Rashford, and Cavani in this lineup. So a little bit of a difference. If you are seeing my formation, there's a massive difference since the lineup's been announced. And I think the biggest story from that formation that's been announced is there's no Bruno Fernandes, which is a massive change in the lineup. Other than I've not been looking at the news today, mainly just because I think the Newcastle game has just squeezed every little bit of enthusiasm out of my bones and myself, really, in terms of talking about United. But I just wanted to do a bit of a stream and talk about it prior to the build-up in an hour's time, really, just because felt I needed to, and I wanted to get it off my chest. But to not play Bruno is a bit of a shock, and I'm not sure if it's a COVID reason. Let's have a double check. I don't think there was. There was nothing announced the day prior to that. So let's have a look if there is anything that I've missed. Of course, his ban. Yeah, how could I forget? So Bruno Fernandes is banned. Yeah. Yeah, of course he's banned. I could forget that. So, silly of me to think there was a bit of a shock there. I just completely forgot about his ban. Shows you when you've just had off the back of that Newcastle game how much it stifled my enthusiasm to keep up to date with what's going on. But yeah, so Bruno Fernandes being out is a positive move. Would I pick Rashford instead of him? No, I wouldn't have done. I'll just shoot back to the other screen. I wouldn't have done. I would have played Van der Beek. I think it needed Van der Beek in there. And I mean, if he's not going to get a chance when Bruno's absent, then when is he going to get a chance? He needs to be playing. He needs to be playing consistently. I think a lot of the fans want to see Van der Beek playing. I'm sure there's a lot of fans out there would like to have seen Van der Beek sort of playing and playing more minutes. Again, it shows a lot that from what Rangnick thinks of him to not be playing him tonight. It basically says, look, I'm not even trusting you against Burnley when Fernandes, who's quite similar to your style, is out. That says to me he doesn't think that he's deserving of any game time at all. So no doubt we will see the talks in January spiralling out of control again about Van der Beek going out. Obviously, there's been some talk today about Martial leaving now. I believe it on loan. So yeah, Martial's obviously leaving, and the squad's going to get steadily sort of more and more diluted, really. Which again puts us back in this position that we were a year, 2 years ago, maybe if I'm fair, 3, going back to the start of Ollie, end of Mourinho days. It does feel a little bit similar to that, where the form has totally dropped, the standard of football's totally dropped, the qualities of players that we've got in the team is dropping. Some of the players want to leave. The feeling around the training ground and around the dressing room is pretty poor. I just feel like we're just back where we were before with this, and I know we were sort of like hoping that Rangnick would steady the ship, but I think, to be fair to him, he's got a long way to go, and 6 months for me won't be enough time for him to do that. I think he's got some time to even get himself into a position where he can start making an impact in the team. He's got to get a transfer window out of the way. Will January be enough? I don't think so. I think summer's the real window where you can make things happen. January will be a stopgap, and I think for the players that we need, it won't be enough. No one's going to release and let players go in that window unless they're absolutely desperate for either money or the players desperate to leave. And I think with the dynamics of the team and the kind of morale around the dressing room and around the camp at the minute, why would anybody want to come into that? I completely understand players not wanting to or avoiding, staying away from that, to be quite honest. So, yeah, we just need a good performance tonight. I mean, even if we won 1-0 tonight, but the performance was high, the intensity was high, the chances were like in abundance. Ronaldo was getting on the end of some stuff, Cavani was getting on the end of the stuff. The build-up play was better. We were in control of it from a defensive point of view and a transitional point of view. So we were actually in control of possession, and we were making chances happen, and we didn't feel sort of sensitive every time we lost the ball that, oh my God, we're sprinting back like we were against Newcastle and we have done all season. That we were actually in control of the game from a defensive point of view. If we manage to get that tonight as fans, we'll look at that and go, right, here's a platform to build on now. Then we've got Wolves after that. We're always, for United, a tough ask. The compact, the difficult to break down. Okay, they're not a team we're going to come out and surprise as much offensively, especially since Jota moved on a year or so ago. They've not really strengthened up. Jimenez isn't the sort of player that he was. So in terms of an offensive outfit, they're not going to scare us too much in that sense. But it's another tough ask. It's another team that we've got to go out and break down. That we've got to try and figure out as a unit. And when we do that against teams, we're weak. We prefer these days being that team where we're having to soak up that pressure and counter-attack. Or we were a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, back when we beat PSG. Back when we had Rashford and Martial were firing, and that's clearly what we're not at the minute. We don't have even a style to play to. We don't have a certain way of playing at the minute. We're not having a counter-attacking team, even when we win the ball back in certain positions. Rangnick said it himself. There was a couple of occasions where we win the ball in a press. It's in the middle of in like zone 2, at the halfway line, or slightly in the opposing half, and we just make the wrong option. We either go backwards and have to start and recycle, or we're not confident enough to make those killer passes and play it progressively forward and be positive. Everything's coming backwards. So yeah, a little bit of something to work on. I think. Well, loads of things to work on. What am I talking about? Loads of things to work on. But I think tonight we just need a positive result. I get the impression with some of the players that are playing, like your Tellers, your Dallo, Fred, even McTominay at times, that it's not like they're not trying. It's not like they're not trying to play. They are trying to play. They are trying to play to a high intensity. They're running around. They're trying to tackle. They're trying to make things happen. It just feels as if they're playing at their absolute maximum constantly in every game that they play for United. It doesn't feel like they've got gears, like they can just play within themselves to in some games and still come out with a performance. That they've got to play at the max level, and that to me shows that their players are not at the standard to be playing for a club like Man United. Now that's not a knock at any of those players' character or any of those players' ability per se. Obviously, it is to a degree. I suppose they aren't good enough to play for United, but that's just the pure facts of it. And then we've diluted ourselves to that level of quality, very similar to what Arsenal did a few years back, and they're steadily sort of working their way through by obviously acquiring some of these younger players who seem to have that quality and they're playing a bit better as a team as well. But I mean, Brighton showed it. I watched Brighton last night. They were brilliant. Chelsea were all over them in parts, but they were brilliant, especially in the first half. And so that West Ham this season have been fantastic, and these are teams, and they've got players who were a lot worse off. Tottenham have turned it around, absolutely turned it around. They were brilliant the other day. Really, I thought, apart from the first half, definitely the second half deserved some out of that game against Southampton. And then they were dead and buried 2 months ago. Conte's come in and absolutely turned them around and got Kane firing now as well. So it's something needs to change. I don't know what it is that needs to change. Well, in my book, I know it just seems like a quality issue now. And I think there's definitely an ego issue, and I think that ego's still hanging around. And I think the players like Martial, Lingard, Rashford in particular are some of those players that they need to kick up the backside. Now Lingard's obviously talking about leaving in January, which I think he probably will. Martial's obviously going. Rashford, for me, I just don't know what Rashford's doing. He must have, like I say, he's had everything on every coach that's ever come in. He must have something to I don't know. I mean, clearly the lad's got unbelievable ability, but every time he sort of shows something, he's just always seems to make the wrong decision every time. Every time he seems to get into a good position, and he's one of these players that, because he is good, he will get into these good positions to either cross or pass or whatever it is, shoot, play somebody in, and he just always seems to be making the wrong decision. Then when we're in a position that we're in at the minute where we're underperforming, it's frustrating. And fans get angry. Obviously, I don't want to talk ill of him too much, but he doesn't deserve at this moment in time to be starting a match for Man United in the Premier League. He doesn't deserve it. Last game he was awful, and previous games to that he's been poor. I'm sure by his own admission he'd agree. So he shouldn't be starting. And there's other players in that team, Martial in particular, who's now leaving, who should have been getting a game tonight. That fella has done nothing wrong this season. When he's been asked of him, when he's come in, his quality against Newcastle, did that step over for Lingard to score that goal. He scored a goal against Everton. I think there were 2 out of 3 of the games that he's played this season. So I don't know. It's a tricky one. Something for us to really sort of mull over, and hopefully we get a result out of this. My obviously I want 3 points and I want to win comfortably. But I just want to see a good performance tonight. I really just want to see us perform well, and just basically control the game. I just want to see chances. I want to see Ronaldo taking several shots. I want to see us winning free kicks in and around the box. I want to see us being deadly at set pieces and corners, which we haven't this season. We haven't scored a single goal from a corner. With the likes of Varane and Maguire in there with Ronaldo's heading ability. We haven't scored. McTominay's a tall player. Matic, when he's been playing, we haven't scored a goal from a corner. It's dreadful. So something needs to drastically change. And I do think for some reason this game tonight is a big clincher, because there's a few teams around that have dropped points. Not saying that we're anywhere near those teams that have, but obviously Chelsea dropped points last night. Liverpool dropped points the night before, and we need to be making sure that we kick on now. We've got favourable fixtures now for the next 3 or 4 games, and we need to be putting those games to bed, because that's what we expect. That's what United should be expecting. So, yeah. Right, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you if you've been watching. There's a couple of people that jumped on, so thank you to them. If anybody else watches this back, sorry for the first 5 or so minutes that I wasn't speaking, because I forgot that there was an audio issue with the default mic settings, so sorted that out eventually. Test it before you come on. Rule number 1. Other than that, thanks if you watched. Don't forget to hit a like, subscribe, comment. I'll comment back. Jump on the next one when one bobs up. Usually do like sort of a pre-match for the games day before. Today it's an hour before, but I usually do it before the game. Sometimes I'll do a watch long. I'm not going to do it tonight because I think you'll just see me chewing my nails for an hour and a half, which is not great. So I'm not going to do a watch long tonight. But I will do some going forward, and then I'll do some reactions. I'll do a reaction maybe tomorrow if I get round to it in the morning. But yeah, thanks for those who watched. Again, feel free if you do catch this watching it back. Feel free to watch. More the merrier, and it'll do me a lot of good. Putting a lot of time into this, I have done. So it'd be nice for some people to jump on and make some comments, and I can respond and everything else. So cheers, guys. Thank you. See you soon.